What is going on, everyone? Welcome to another episode of 100 Yards of Football on Sports Talk Radio. I'll be your host and producer, Logan Landers, and join me here today to talk about the battle of the ones and twos, the Los Angeles Rams and the Chicago Bears. Which team's going to pull the 500 and which will pull further down to 1-3 between these two teams in Los Angeles and Chicago. Help me talk about these teams and who we think is going to win is Jay McLovin from the Elite Sports and Entertainment Network. Jay, how you doing, my friend?
Hey, I'm doing well, man. I'm doing well. Yeah, let's talk some Bears and Rams. Logan, this is probably the one game that really, honestly, it excites me, but doesn't excite me, right? Because both teams are 1-2. Both teams have come out struggling. The Rams have lost Puka Nacua. They've lost Cooper Kupp.
Yep.
So this offense is really kind of a shell right now. Then, when you look at the Bears, they're 1-2. And Caleb Williams is off to a rough start and things of that nature. So for me, this game is kind of a big game because I want to see what Caleb Williams can do. Can he bounce back? Can he actually do what Jaden Daniels is doing for Washington? Can he finally do with that? Can he get to that level? Because let's be honest, as of right now, I think we all think that he's not necessarily or should have been necessarily the number one. I think it belongs to Daniels over in Washington. I think he was a true number one pick. But they got what they got. So let's look at this, shall we? Look at the Bears versus the Colts. That was last week, right? 21-16, and the Colts took it. Like I told you in a previous about the Colts, Williams put up 52 for 363, 2 touchdowns, 2 picks, 4 sacks, and a fumble. Now, I will tell you, I understand the picks. I'm not going to hammer him on the picks. He threw up quite a few yards, to be honest with you.
Yep.
What I'm going to hammer him on is the 4 sacks and the fumble. Because I felt like, a pick, things can happen. A fumble, that means you just didn't get it securely in your hands.
Right.
That's a fundamentalistic thing. Or you're not taking care of the football when you had it. The 4 sacks, it was a few times where I felt like he waited too long in the pocket to escape, and he just took the sacks. I felt like there were some things there that were still need to be worked on. But I thought this version of Caleb Williams versus the Colts was probably the best version of Caleb Williams we've seen in the first 3 games of the season. So I am going to give him a little bit of props, but I still don't believe in him. Having said that, the team rushed in that game for 28 for 63 yards. 28 for 63. Now, Richardson didn't do any better either. He pooped the bed at 10 for 20, 167, and 2 interceptions, no touchdowns. But they rushed 33 times for 150 total yards and 3 touchdowns. So even though the passing game wasn't necessarily there, the running game certainly was. And that's what they're going to be facing against this Rams team, right? They're going to get a much better quarterback, honestly, and Matt Stafford. They're going to have a much better run game. And was it Kyren Williams? Is that how you say his first name? Kyren? Oh, okay. So they got Kyren Williams over there. Obviously not playing Cam Akers because now he's down there with Houston Texans. But I still think you're going to get a formidable team coming into play, a team that has a lot of experience behind it. When you look at the Rams versus the 49ers, they actually got the win. So they're coming off an amazing win over a decent team. Yes, a little hobble, no Christian McCaffrey, right? No Debo. Right. But you still got Ayuk, you still got Jennings, and you still got all the other people that are on that team that are playing well. So I don't want to get – I do want to give the 49ers some legitimacy and the Rams some legitimacy in beating that team at 27-24. It was only a field goal away from tying it up. Purdy gave you 22 of 30 for 292 and 3 touchdowns. He had a sack and a fumble. And the team rushed for a total of 34 times for 137 yards. So the offense clearly was still there for San Francisco. They just didn't have enough to quite close it out. Stafford went 16 of 25, 221 at touchdown, 3 sacks. They rushed 26 times for 98 yards, 2 touchdowns, but they were only averaging 3.8 yards on the rush. So that's something to think about. But again, they did enough to beat a really, really good team. When you look at the leaders for both teams, you got Caleb Williams at 70 for 118, 630 yards, 2 touchdowns, but 4 interceptions. And it's really the interceptions and the turnovers that are truly killing right now Caleb Williams' value. When you look at Stafford, he's 69 for 101 attempts, 754 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a pick. Now, obviously, I think we had much more touchdowns had he not lost Cooper Kupp and those natures. But still, man, when you look at the running back, he got Swift at 37 for 68 yards. You got Moore, their wide receiver, at 19 for 167 yards. Again, none of these stats are really impressive. Maybe the Moore. You can probably give DJ Moore having the impressive stat at 19 for 167. So I will give him that. I'm give him that credit, right? When I look at the Rams, though, obviously I just gave you Stafford, so Stafford's playing quite well. Kyron Williams gave you 54 carries for 164 and 4 touchdowns. So the guy is producing. And then, of course, you have Kupp, who has 18 for 147 and a touch, but he is kind of negated because he's on the injured reserve. So they're going to have to turn to Atwell and whoever else they got on that damn receiving squad to pick up the slack. At the end of the day, though, I think it's going to be Rams over Colts. Actually, let me go back real quick. The Bears over 3 games defense has given up 57 points. They gave up 16 to Indianapolis, 19. No, excuse me, I apologize. They gave up 21 points to Indianapolis, 19 points to Houston, and 17 points to Tennessee, which was the only win they got was Tennessee. So it was a total of 57 cumulative points that defense for the Bears has given up. When you flip it over to the Rams side, in San Francisco, they gave up 24 points. Against Arizona, they gave up 41 points, which is really a horrible loss for those guys. And then Detroit, they gave up 26 points. So in total, they gave up 91 points, the Rams did. So in all honesty, if you look at these defenses and what they've given up, this is probably one of the better shots for Caleb Williams to actually make an impact. And I got to be honest with you, Logan, this is probably the biggest game for him. If Caleb Williams wants to start making a name for himself and start to dispel the rumors that Jaden Daniels is a true number 1, then this is a game where he has to start. It has to start here. He's got to get touchdowns more so than what he's got on the interception ratio, which, again, was 2-4. So with that being said, I'm going to give this game, though, to the Rams. I think it'll be a close game. I think it might be somewhat reminiscent of the Detroit game, and I think it's going to actually. I think it'll be more like around the Houston game for the Bears. So I'm going to say 19-13 or 20-13. I'm going to say 20. I'm going to round it up. So I'm going to say 20-13 in favor of the Rams.
Yeah, when I look at these two teams, obviously LA has just been beat up by injuries. Man, it's been rough. Your top 2 receivers in terms of Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua, they're out for who knows how long. It's going to be a while, right? So you're relying on Tutu Atwell, who looked good in the playoffs last year. He looked good. You got Demarcus Robinson and Tyler Johnson. I trust Matt Stafford to make it work, right? He's been in the league a long time. He can make the best with the weapons he's got there at the receiving core. But, Jay, where I scratch my head with this team is Kyron Williams is doing great, right? 54 carries, 164, 4 touchdowns for him. But he's not averaging a turns of yards per game. He's only getting about 54 on the ground and a 3.0 average. But, Jay, can you explain to me how come Blake Corum's not getting the ball much at all?
Yeah, I wonder that myself.
I scratch my head at that because this is a guy who was a third-round pick, but got you over 3,700 yards in college on the ground and also ran for 58 touchdowns. So I don't know how you don't get him involved. Maybe this is the week. I don't know. I scratch my head at that. So Sean McVay, do with that what you will. But this team, Jay, like you said, their defense is just it's not there. They're not doing a whole lot right yet. Giving up tons of points. Like you said, they get like 91 points in the last in their three games so far. It's not been a great defensive showing. When you look at the rest of this team, though, you've got Byron Young, who's got you in terms of sack leadings with 2. Jay, he's got half the sacks on the team. He's got 2 of 4.
Yeah.
So they're not getting pressure on the quarterbacks. When you look at the secondary in terms of interceptions, they're not getting turnovers. Only 1 pick on the whole year. Their defense has to be better, Jay, if they want to win ball games and be competitive. That's for everyone on there, the Gerard Verses of the world, who, Jay, let's not forget, he was seemingly picked to replace Aaron Donald, right? That's what everyone's kind of been saying about the guy coming out of Florida State, 6'4", 260 linebacker. He's been very, very slow this year. He's gotten a sack, but he's only gotten 9 tackles on the solo end. 9 tackles in terms of for a solo, but 15 overall. Slower start than I would like. They got to do something on defense if they will win this game. Now, looking at Chicago, we all know that they are going to be widely looked at because they did have the number 1 pick, who they went with Caleb Williams. And Caleb, 630 on the air, right? Just a tick below 60% completion percentage. Throws the ball a lot, right? 210 yards a game, give or take. But like I said, 2 touchdowns, 4 INTs is what it is, right? Bo Nix had 4 interceptions. Anthony Richardson, who we've talked about, he's got 6. But if he wants to contribute and I guess you could say dig himself out of a hole of just kind of the getting beat down on and whatnot and saying, oh, so-and-so is doing better right now. He's got to stay off his back, Jay. 13 sacks in 3 games. Yeah. That ain't going to cut it. Now, when I look at sacks, there are some times when you could get rid of the ball and avoid it. That's true as well. But you also just need to look at the guys up front who are allowing said pressure because it's a team game. And if your offensive line, Jay, if they're not protecting you, it's going to be a rough go. And the reason, Jay, that they're throwing the ball so much, they don't really have much of a running game at all. Jay, what is happening to DeAndre Swift? Is it the system he was in Detroit? Could be. I say that because in 3 games, Jay, he's gotten 37 carries for 68 yards.
Yeah.
37 carries for yards. Jay, he's only averaging 1.8 yards per average rush. He's only getting you 22.7 yards per game. He's the starter. Caleb Williams is almost getting more. I guess he's the quarterback, but still. Got to get a running game. And the rest of the team, I mean, you got guys like Khalil Herbert, Roschon Johnson. They haven't done much either. They've combined for like 46 yards.
Right.
They only have 218 yards, Jay.
Here's the thing, Logan. They don't, it's such an interesting anomaly, this management system that Chicago has. They literally brought in all these big pieces, right?
Mm-hmm.
They got the receivers, they got the quarterback, they got the running back. They did everything but do the one thing they were supposed to do. Championships are won and lost in the trenches, and their trenches are horrible.
Well said. No, I mean, well said. I mean, you mentioned the receiving core, right? You've got, I would say, a 3-headed monster, right? You've got 3 good players. DJ Moore looks good. Roma Odunze, I will say, has been a really good spot for them. He's looked good whenever he gets the ball. I like that pickup who they got this past draft. And then your tight end in Cole Kmet, who I mean is always, he's been solid for many years now. You say they're 1 loss in the trenches. As a team, they've got 7 sacks on the year. Darrell Taylor has 2, and also Gervin Dexter Sr. has 2 also. When you look at your secondary, who's getting interceptions, that's going to be Jalen Johnson, your cornerback. He's got 2, Tyreek Stevenson and Tremaine Edmonds. They each have 1 apiece. They've got 4 on the year. But to me, Jay, it's just been the offense has not shown up for this team at this time. They're averaging only 17.7 points per game. They've only gotten 5 touchdowns in 3 games, Jay. 5 touchdowns in 3 games. That ain't going to cut it.
Nope.
That is not going to work out well. I don't care what team you are. When you look at this team, they've got some bright spots, but they've got some kinks they've got to work out as well. this is a tough matchup, right? Because to me, I don't really see much of a favorite. When you look at the lines, I mean the matchup predictor I'm looking at here on ESPNJ, 49% for the Rams, 49% for Chicago. I mean it's a toss up. It's a toss up. I mean the spread is plus and minus 3, which means it's going to be a close game. I think this is going to be a low scoring affair. I'm not feeling super confident in either team, but if I had to go with one, which I'm gonna do, I'll give the very slight edge to Chicago actually this week. But it ain't gonna be a blowout. I got a final score. Give me Chicago 17-14. I think it's gonna be a very just low scoring game. It just sucks that two of your main pieces are out for Los Angeles on offense. That always hurts. And then for Chicago, they're just trying to figure something out to get their offensive click. But that's my thoughts. I think, if you're a fan of these teams, it's going to be an interesting game. That's for sure. It's going to be a tight game. I think it's going to be a close game. But there's going to be, for every great 20-yard plus play, there might be a couple that might go backwards a couple of yards. So that's just how these two teams are looking in my eyes at this moment. We're still just 4 weeks into the season. A lot could change. That's just how I view it at this time. Jay, I appreciate you, my friend, coming on the show, talking about the Bears and the Rams. I've been your host and producer, Logan Landers. Guys, until next time, we'll talk.